I can't hear anything. It's raining outside, so I can't hear
Okay.
anything of it.
I guess we are all set to go.
You all are all sitting
We,
home. You can see where I am standing.
This is what the kids should know.
I'm, I'm right outside the old secretariat.
So Amol, I think you can start asking us
yeah,
questions and then we go across. But it's good if you can start with Kenzel and then or Rupesh and then come to me last.
Yeah, so that at least I
that
can.
would be great. Yeah, that would be great. So, firstly, very warm welcome to each and every one of you who has joined us today in this panel discussion on the topic of journalism in times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Firstly, I want to welcome all the four
Amal,
panelists of today.
Amal, Amal,
Firstly,
Amal, sorry for disturbing. Your voice is not clear. It's not as audible.
Can you
Uh,
hear me now?
okay, Ramra, am I audible now?
yes. It's clear now. Yeah.
I think I need
It
to
has
come
rained
closer to the
heavily,
phone.
and I am sure it has rained everywhere else in Goa also, because of which we all are facing a problem with the network. But nevertheless, so firstly, I want to welcome the senior correspondent for CNN News 18, Mr. Herman Gomes. We are also joined in by the uh, professor from the
Who's the
Department of
youngest?
Mass Communication and Journalism from St. David's College, Ma'am Belarus Fernandez. We have been joined in by the founder of Goa News Hub and the bureau in charge of PTI Goa, Mr. Rupesh Samant. And we have been joined in by the founder of the Goan News Reporter, Mr. Kenzel Rodriguez. We welcome all four of you all to this panel discussion. Firstly, I would want to request Mr. Kenzel Rodriguez, who is currently also on the field, to kindly present his views on the topic of journalism in times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Kenzel, it's over to you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, in the last 2 years, since the time from March 22nd, since COVID pandemic has been there, I don't know what to say, how journalism has been, and especially when we are on the field. Because for this, there was curfew extension now. Earlier it was total lockdown. But still then we managed to get out some stories, maybe of COVID, daily use. So a lot of things have been happening here, and it has been difficult, even because if you don't wear a mask on the road, if you police or anybody finds you, and at the time, even in a crowded place, you need to take care of your own self. Because I've seen people losing their loved one, and it is really sad to see that when I've seen it in front of my own eyes. Even in the last few months, because of the oxygen issue, whatever has been there between the government and between the ministers themselves, the situation has been very sad. So that is what I would like to say in this COVID time. Goa has gone through bad times. It has been difficult for many of the families.
Thank you, Kenzel. You rightly mentioned that the journalists are indeed facing a lot of trouble
Training, I can't hear.
in times of the pandemic, but yet all of you guys are on the team, and it's indeed a great job that you all are doing. And we can surely currently standing at the secretariat in heavy rains. Um, so, well, we also have another journalist with us from Goa, Mr. Rupesh Samant. Rupesh has been working actively in Goa for the past several years. Rupesh, we would want to hear your views on how has the pandemic affected the journalism industry, and what are the new trends that have come in. Rupesh, it's over to you.
Please unmute yourself.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Rupesh. You're
Okay,
audible.
first of all, thank you for inviting me for this discussion. I'll do my presentation in very quick way. First and foremost challenge that any journalist has been facing is to make sure that he himself is not infected. And that one Herman lost the challenge twice. I think he got infected twice. Thankfully, me and Kenzela still yet to get infected. So. The first and foremost challenge is to make sure that you yourself don't end to be a story next day or a tweet next day saying that okay, I have been tested positive. So and it's why I'm saying that it's a challenge in front of everyone, but more in front of a journalist because we are on the field and you cannot avoid going out on the field. I cannot just put up a text saying that I'm home and I'm safe. So this is one challenge. Another challenge, as I all know that this batch of 10th and 12th would be identified as a batch of COVID students because they never went for examination and they got passed. So this generation of journalists would also be identified as someone who has covered COVID. I can see Herman laughing, but I think he'll agree with me. This generation is, I don't know, fortunate or unfortunate because this is such a pandemic which has given us a huge lot of experience in field, which were earlier like uh, some terms we have never heard 3-4 years back now, but they have become so normal in our usage in our writing that this batch of entire journalists would be tagged as COVID journalists in the sense that those people who have covered pandemic. So 30-40 years down the line, when someone wants to do any research about what was the situation in 1920, 2019, 20 and 2021, then they will of course refer to us and they will come to us. So that is one thing we would be turning into resource. Third and important thing is that medical journalism is something which was never taught to any of the journalists. Uh, you've been taught how to cover a crime, how to cover politics, how to cover business or entertainment, but medical or health is something which was never taught to anyone. Some terms of medicines like it took almost 2 days for me to say properly, pronounce properly something called remdesivir or something like that. So I know Herman, again I'm referring to Herman because if Herman says it wrongly on his channel, then everyone, lakhs and crores of people will laugh at him. But it won't be his mistake because I don't think ever in his life he must have heard about this something ivermectin, remdesivir, or I don't know, or even something like prophylaxis treatment, something which we learned. So this is another challenge that we faced, and most important challenge what we faced, and what I see is the difference between those people, those journalists way back who covered Spanish flu and those people who covered COVID right now is that time there was no WhatsApp, there was no Facebook, that time there was no social media. So half of the time you're busy trying to tell people that this is a fake news. So for example, there was one guy from Herman's own constituency of Navelim who was pronounced as dead. And then everyone and the entire day was saying ki, no, whether he's dead, whether he's dead. And we were busy more telling people that no, he's alive, he's very much alive. So to prove someone alive is also a challenge in front of journalists when such fake news surface and then they happen. And finally, I'm just winding up very quickly that there is a thin line between a patriotism right now and facts. So right now, if you say that there is no oxygen in hospital, then some people say, why are you acting like this? You should not be speaking like this. This is a pandemic. Let government work. You're creating nuisance for them. You're not a patriotic. So it's a very thin line that we often pass on to become a non-patriotic journalist. So this is one challenge, and I hope that this kind of challenges never ever occur in anyone's life, journalist life, and this corona should end because we want to act normal and we want to cover normal stories. Thank you.
I think you rightly mentioned the fact that all type of all type of journalism has been taught, such as sports, political, crime, but something like COVID has not been taught at the college level. Well, we have with us the professor from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication from St. David's College, Ma'am Belarus. Ma'am Belarus has been in this field of academics for the last 15 years. So, ma'am, we would want to hear your views on this topic.
Yeah, at the onset, let me thank everyone who's part of this discussion. I think it's a very important one. Keeping in mind the way the media industry, journalism especially, is changing. Thanks Ram Rai and Pinnacle Discussion Club, sorry, and Amol for inviting me here to be part of this discussion. I think again, very briefly to put it, I think the industry, again, when you talk about journalism as industry, we do realize it has evolved just in the last 20 to 30 years, specifically in a place like India, talking of the size of the industry growing. What has hit that mainstream industry in a big way is, I guess, the economy itself, and that will take a long time to repair. Advertising revenues are totally down. We do understand that because of that, a lot of mainstream, whether it's news channels or newspapers, have had to downsize. So we did witness in the first few months itself quite a lot of job losses. Uh, I'm not talking of those with a lot of experience, but definitely the freshers and people who are entering, as well as skill-based labor that is there more on technical aspects. I have heard of many, even in Goa, losing their jobs. Um, we were not prepared for this pandemic, definitely in that way, because India and journalism as such as a field has become a part of the free market economy. So when you talk of big wigs, you're talking of huge multi-media conglomerates. Perhaps it's not hitting them that hard. Then it has hit back here in Goa. I mean, we know that Gomantak Times had to shut down in the meantime because of the pandemic itself, and that displaced a lot of local journalists as well. So I think that's where the wake-up call is necessary. Are we working with, this is again perhaps because I'm from the academic field, I'll throw up questions which are a little bit academic in nature. Journalism is definitely a field which requires passion, it requires commitment, it requires a lot of responsibility when we enter the field. But then we have the market. And in a place like Goa itself, it's very clear without getting into a lot of dialogue about how our business models work here. There is a need for what people like Ansel and perhaps Rupesh Samant is doing somewhere, that we get journalism from the grassroots level to be amplified on social media platforms, because there's a total lacuna. I mean, I would not like to grow critical, but in terms of reporting certain cases or issues, especially during the pandemic, we found that the mainstream media was not really playing its job. Of course, there's a Pandemic Act. There is something that all journalists cannot report on everything, cannot criticize openly, but definitely there were areas where I feel personally again that we reached till a climax literally in certain issues till it came onto mainstream media. And therefore, in a small state and perhaps a mixed economy like we seem to look at it, there's a need to look at subscription-based journalism in a big way. I mean, we do subscribe to it because, again, Goa being a literate state, having good percentage of literacy levels, can access social media platforms easily and therefore perhaps be informed. But like it was pointed out, the survival flow of such formats is a big question mark, because I understand with my little experience of how Goa is covered, especially during election times. And I'll be very frank, it's election times, close knocking our doors. And we will find so many different media platforms floated with different names. Please forgive me, there are affinities which are very clear, biases that draw out, and our Goan population is pretty gullible to buy certain opinion, because it goes that way as so-called journalism, but it is not journalism. And the pandemic has also drawn those I mean, rather exposed those cracks very clearly in the way reportage has happened across certain social media platforms, only reporting a certain story, not covering the other story. Whether we're talking of Mole and the way it was highlighted initially, totally absent in the mainstream media till it was picked up by social media forums, then it was picked up by national media forums, and hence it then comes into some limelight with the government pitching in. The style of reporting, even during a pandemic, under the crisis that we work. And I'm sorry, I know I work from the academic background. You may tell you're sitting in your house, you're comfortable there. You don't know how the reporters have to really work out there. But journalism is about commitment. And I think during this pandemic, it has taught a lot of journalists themselves to uh, ignite that commitment towards telling stories which are fact based. Another thing that Rupesh has pointed out, I mean, this is something that's plaguing all different media platforms. Fake news, as we call it, disinformation, very rampant, and it has set in a big way because perhaps mainstream media did not fulfill its duties to a certain extent, and hence people are now relying. So to re-approach this trust factor that is there, that is very important from the journalist's perspective, that when you give a news, it's not just about breaking news. I grew up in the scenario of breaking news, and it felt great to watch Barkha Dutt reporting from Kargil. It doesn't matter anymore. Give me in-depth stories of what really is the crisis. Give proper perspectives, whether it is government, whether it is people speaking. Give perspectives which are balanced. Very important, without taking sides. And I think that we see today in people's movement, in people coming out to make stories themselves. Whether it is you're looking at social media platforms where a lot of these kind of news portals are active. Subscriptions have increased more to them because they're local news, which people do want right now. How do we really strengthen these local community news forums? That's very important. Journalists, whether you're from mainstream media, whether you're from a local, reporting. I know that school teachers also become correspondents and stringers in newspapers in Goa from different villages, which is a very good thing. I mean, I don't say that you cannot do that, but you need to support each other in learning certain skill sets which have changed because we have moved on to a phase where perhaps, again, journalists who were just sitting at their offices and typing the news or getting news through wired agencies found it very difficult. So where is the network with your grassroots level journalists? That needs to be rebuilt literally in this era. I think personally, as a media educator, the need is to go back to good old journalism. There need not be flashing news. There need not be stories which just break for a few days and a hype is created around it. The hype is also created because of media industries. It's not created because people only want it. There is an economy running that kind of news. We saw that with Sushant Singh Rajput story. So, I mean, if there is a need to shift, then we need to shift it right from the point where perhaps we start looking at in-depth analysis, make it interesting, not because it is, don't drive it phobia driven. The whole thing is people are scared right now, and hence they will lap up a lot of the information. We are literally sitting in this infodemic, as we call it nowadays, because there's too much of information and people don't know where to check. So fact checking, very important for media organizations, even if it's a grassroots level or it is a mainstream. You need to have a fact checking team which can check and verify and inform your viewers or subscribers what exactly is happening and what's the truth there. You can't play God, but you definitely need to go beyond just giving statements to actually convincing with facts, right? So I think that changed to a large extent. And how will you work when you see that the industry is always going to face this crunch from the advertising revenues literally shrinking? We don't consider journalism to be totally dependent on advertising, but let's accept it. We all get our salaries because of the revenues that come from advertising industry. So how are you going to shift that focus into a subscription model? I have seen some of the Indian news portals, of course, the international names that we can go with, but Indian ones also doing pretty well. The Wire, for example, News Laundry doing pretty well. What I would rather say is, it's too far to say that our government, social media platforms should look at those kind of hybrid models, perhaps to a certain extent, because it is a long-term investment when you talk of journalism. So you need to look at those factors. All said and done, I think. It's a difficult time, no doubt, but again, like Rupesh was pointing out rightly, this is a trying time that's going to teach all of us a lot of new things. And I don't think the new normal is going to be what we want it to be. We'll have to keep shifting our focus and adapting to the new normal again and again. And in doing so, it's not about the survival of the fittest anymore. It's more about, I think, in journalism at least, it's more about how you help this adaptation to grow into the society in which you're based. And I think we should look at stories which talk about, human beings and the human development aspect of it, rather than just run with government agendas, which unfortunately sometimes become the only thing some news organizations are putting out. So the media agenda should be very clear about what they really want to project in a time of crisis like this. Vaccination drives which are happening, unfortunately, fortunately, uh, language journalism has to pick on explaining the need for vaccination in a large way, because there's still a section of our society which is not going forward into vaccination. Now, English cannot help there, cannot help in any way. I mean, we are a diverse and multilingual state itself. So we need to look at journalists, we need to look at people who can inform people with these perspectives, which are critically important at this phase of the pandemic. I think, yeah, these are the couple of changes I think we have witnessed. And as a teacher, of course, it's been a totally different ballgame, but we'll come to that later this time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am Belarus, for presenting your views. Well, we just heard two of the journalists from Goa, and we heard a professor from Goa. Next up, we have a senior journalist who's a Goan but currently based in Mumbai, Mr. Herman Gomes. Herman, we would want to hear from you now. Herman, it's over to you.
I think you're on mute.
Herman, are we audible to you?
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So, it's a Saturday and I've managed to get a leave after like I think 2 or 3 weeks. So I've not really prepared my notes. So whatever I say might sound brutal, but it's raw. First of all, thank you very much for having me. To someone like Kenzil, who I've known for the longest period of time, he is someone who's, people have already spoken about mojo called mobile journalism when it comes to Barka Dutt. But as far as Goa is concerned, I think he's the one who's revolutionized that along with Rupesh Samant. Rupesh Samant has been covering national media for the longest period of time for PTI, which also happens to be the oldest news agency. But somehow credit has never been given. But he's not stopped at that. He's come up with his own thing called as Goa News Hub, which also does in-depth stories besides doing his lives. And Madam Belarus might not know me, but way back in 2008, when I was at Xavier's for a choir program, she was someone who had actually guided me and asking me how to go into journalism. And then subsequently, I did give, even though after the slots were filled, I had managed to still, increase another extra slot and got me admission there. But then Xavier's Bombay was, and then I came back and also got the
Okay,
refund back.
let me just, yeah, I know, I remember that clearly well, Herman.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good to
So,
see.
yeah. So I'll tell you what it is. When you say there is a challenge in journalism, journalism has always been a challenge. When there's a fire, there's a tragedy, there's a cycle, people run away from that. But the reporter is someone who runs towards the tragedy. Why? Not because he enjoys it, but because he needs to give real-time notifications, information to people so that they can avoid it. Now we've seen, as far as the biggest challenge, what is it in the pandemic? The pandemic is that we used to cover fires, cyclones, name it, and we've done it. In a pandemic, this is the first time, as Rupesh was saying, when there's a fire, we call up the fire brigade. If there's an earthquake, you call up the disaster management. When there's a pandemic, who do you call? There is no infrastructure in place, as we have learned in the first wave, second wave, we've learned a few lessons here and there, or probably not. Who do you call? That's your biggest challenge. One is your source of information. Second is your own safety. I myself, as Rupesh was saying, I took all precautions that were necessary, but somehow during the Sushant Singh Rajput coverage was the time when I was infected. Things did not work out well. I was now in Goa covering the cyclone. At the same time, I started getting facial pain. The eyes started hurting. The lower jaw started moving. And luckily, an ENT in Margao managed to detect it earlier because there's no test for it. It turned out to be the early symptoms of mucor, which is why I've now started wearing specs because my left eye, the reading has been affected. Secondly, you might not affect yourself. I've known of so many people where they've got themselves infected, knowingly or unknowingly. They've come home, and now the whole family has got COVID, the virus. They've lost their loved ones because they were in journalism. And journalism, I'll just be as frank as possible. At the grassroots level, that is, if you're like a reporter like me who almost sleeps on the road every day or next to the garbage bin, it is not a fancy job. If you are out there, it comes at a very big cost. And let's just be, it's lovely to sit and talk about, oh, we should be doing this, we are the salt of the earth. Nothing works. The current mode of journalism is here to stay for the next 15 years. You either absorb that in your head, and you also be, the price also in terms of salaries. Everyone is underpaid. Now, I don't know how Kenzil and Rupesh manage it, because they've got a team. They themselves are founders of it. So they can speak more about it, because in terms of the money coming in. And it's difficult. If conglomerates like the one that I work for, I used to work at a channel called as Times Now. At one point, while covering the first wave, I said, this is it. I can't. And I quit, and I went to Goa for a month. Luckily, then I had to come back. But if big companies like us are suffering, where there are job cuts, no raises, no increments, what are people going to do at the local level? I mean, entrepreneurs like, hats off to Rupesh and Kenzil. I'm not saying it because they're my good friends. But the fact is that how do you survive? There are two things. First of all, journalism will always underpay. The sponsorship rate is happening. You do it. Journalism was never listening to me. If they can hear me clearly, do Google in an article called as the Jain Brothers, which appeared in the New Yorker magazine in the early 2000s. These are the Jain brothers who own the Times of India group. And Vinny Jain, or I don't know which of the brothers, he clearly said when 90% of your money comes in from the advertising industry, you are in the advertising industry, not in the journalism industry. It is it. The fact is this, if you're ready, also one more thing that no one talks about, your personal life is zero. I don't want to demotivate anyone here. Your personal life is zero. Be ready to compromise on your weekends. Be ready to compromise with your family, your own health. You are only in journalism for the passion of it. That's it. There is no other thing. And many of our students, sometimes they call me up and they say, I want to become an anchor. How will you become an anchor? You've always got to be a ground reporter, which is why at CNN, where I work, most of the anchors are also ground reporters till date. That's why they ask you, the proper sort of questions. You are into journalism only if you're a storyteller. You believe that if I tell a particular story, I might bring some change. That is why you have to have a little bit of social activism in your side. Be ready to compromise. Late nights, no money coming in, father and mother still paying in your late 20s. Love life to zero. Everything you've got, if you're ready for that sort of compromise, you're coming into this. Or else it's not a sweet, lovely saying job, or else get a sarkari job, But at the end of it, what I believe is, as much as what the medical industry, for example, the doctors or even the police industry considered as a noble profession, I think journalism is a noble profession, and it will always be that. Because in a pandemic, just imagine yourselves where there is this sort of coronavirus. I think someone mentioned it, and people don't know whom to ask. Where is the information coming in? The information is only coming through us, but at what cost? We've put our lives at risk. There's everything you didn't know, and no one was prepared for a pandemic. And what you learn in college, what I learned in college, I can say that I hope I'm not sounding wrong here, but 3 years of what I've learned in college, not 0.1% has been of use to me till date on field. 0.1%. Not even that, actually. The only thing why your college degree helps you is to show your HR that, yes, I'm a qualified guy. This is my certificate. I went to college. That is it. The only thing that helps is internships. There are a lot of youngsters who are listening to this now. I think this is the best time, take proper safety, whatever, and you can approach these guys. I'm sure they can find some sort of opportunity. Do intern with them, because internships help. Like today, the company that I work for, CNN News 18, I interned for 1 year, 2 months in 2012. I was an intern there. I used to never go to college. Whole second year I bunked. I was always at, that is where I made my contacts. That's where I learned my ground journalism. That is what helps. The college degree is as good as only to show your HR that I went to college. It doesn't help at all. That's why I said at the start of this, I hope I don't mind to demotivate anyone. I'm just going to be as raw as possible. Salaries. Your entry salary, a lot of people will want to know. Your entry salary is 18 to 20,000. Right now, there are no job openings for seniors. So y'all are still in a good place, because there's hiring still happening, in terms of web, print, but it's happening at for freshers. So that's the entry salary at the national level is 18, 20,000, which I'm sure in Goa is like, even the seniors are sort of being paid. Subscription model is being spoken about. Valeros spoke about it. Now, as far as subscription models are concerned, we love in India everything for free. No one is going to subscribe. We love everything for free. Now it is up to journalism students that they are encouraged that, at least per month, 50 rupees, can you subscribe, say, to the Goan Report or the Goa News Hub, start something at that level. Do start giving it out back. Oh, I'm just giving a ballpark figure, 50 is too less. You all can, come up with something for students. Decide at that level. If the journalism field has to grow today, the stakeholders, which is me, you, students, reporters, everyone has to, and as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. Now, at the senior level, at TV level, now there's a lot being said, oh, you know what, you're pro-government, you're against government. We don't take those decisions. Those are probably taken at a very higher level. And I really, frankly, I'm not someone at that level who can speak, and neither are any of us. And also there is a lot, that was being spoken about. Like I know for a fact that Rupesh and Kenzel do a lot of these stories, and then I copy it from there, and then it goes on national level and it becomes viral. But the fact is, 1 week before, Kenzel had already done the story, and Rupesh knows which story I'm talking about, which is about the Hindus, the crematorium which opened. That went viral in Goa. Everyone said, your story. But the fact is that Rupesh had done that story 1 week, and he was generous enough to give it to me when I asked him. Now, what? Let's just admit that it is to help. Even if you get, I have a backlog like till the last end. The first one in class who managed to get my first, the only one. The others were still struggling. So that is it. Go now, start interning, try to do. Mobile journalism is so beautiful. The other day I was doing this course because now earlier what happened, you had a news vehicle, that huge one which had an antenna. There was a driver, there was the cleaner, and there was the engineer. 3 people employed on that. 3 people had their jobs. Today that has been replaced by what we call as the live view box. So the cleaner was thrown out and the driver was thrown out while the engineer had a job. Now that has also been replaced because they've ensured that the live view license that you used on the machine is today used in your mobile phone, which is what we've started at our company, where the reporter only does the live. So he's also replaced the camera person as well as the engineer. Companies are going to work at what works for them the best, which is whether it is cost effective or not. There is journalism you want to do, there is that lovely sites called as The Wire and all. Everyone says, oh, I don't want to name, there are these certain sort of, this thing that, oh, what, they've been writing against the government. But there is a lot of bias also in what they write. There is no center of the left. There is either extremely left or extremely right. One of the panelists, I believe, who was invited, probably must have said no to this. Everyone knows I don't want to get into it because seniority, we have to respect. But the fact is that the biases are there, left, right, center. At the end of the day, if you're in for the passion, and secondly, after entering the field, if you realize that, listen, I may have done a mistake, there is no course correction unless you get into PR or marketing or, any of that sort of stuff. But when you finally get into it, you've got to also ensure a steady income coming in. Journalism is lovely, but someone has got to pay the electricity and water bill also. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry if I sound like this. Journalism is a lovely profession, but if you're in for it, come only for the passion. There's no money, at least for now. If you do well, probably you'll get a bonus or whatever. Secondly, a lot of risk involved personally, social, as I said, personally to your health, as well as your family. I'm so constantly my bag. If you open, there'll be always medicines there. Third, there is, say, zero to your social life, whatever. This is the sort of cost that we pay. And not now, this cost was always there, not because of the pandemic. The pandemic has only acted as a catalyst to all the worries that we've already had. Am I right? So towards that has been such an issue that it has always so much so. Then there are also, I know, and I hope I'm not sounding wrong or I'm not taken in a wrong sense of way. In Goa, as much as in Mumbai also, there are a lot of lobbies. Within the journalism, there are lobbies. Now you've got to identify which side of the lobby are you. There are some lobbies who will talk about someone, he does a good story, they'll bring him down. Someone else is climbing up the ladder. These retired senior guys who have been working for print, they'll try to bring down that person. Someone like Kenzel starts something, they will say, oh, Kenzel only does, sort of certain sort of reporting. But these are the guys who set up the agenda for us. We are youngsters today. I mean, by designation, I'm a senior correspondent, but I'm 28 years of age. These are the guys who set out. Today, can it be corrected? No. In the next 10 years, this is not being corrected. It could have been corrected much earlier had the pandemic not been there. But the economic course of it has changed a lot. You are into journalism for money, to forget it. No one is into it for money. Let's just agree to that. We are only in for the passion. It comes at a cost if you're ready to pay, but it's a lovely profession. At the end of the day, when you do a good story, for example, if there's an oxygen crisis at what should we call it, at GMC, Goa Medical College. It goes on national media. We do a thorough investigation. We go and spend the night there, go it. Next day when the the health minister says that, informs the court that we finally taken action. No more photography is going to be allowed inside. Finally, lives are saved. You are going to have a lovely, peaceful sleep. As much as I said, you'll be sleeping alone in bed, but you've known you've helped somewhere. It's as good as social activism, but the only thing it comes in the medium is different, right? Without the bias. So when that's home, when you go to sleep and you've realized you've done a lovely story where you've impacted certain lives in certain way, that is, I think, the return gift from journalism, not the money that comes with it. I'm sorry if I sound like a old grandfather, but fact as it is, this is the damn truth. And as far as youngsters are involved about the jobs, don't worry, there are jobs, because at the fresher level, there are a lot of jobs. At people like us, I think we'll sort of stagnate unless if the gods are willing. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman, for expressing your views. I'm very sure the audience enjoyed listening to you. The pandemic has affected the media industry very badly, and that has been evident because of a number of reasons. We have many of us who have joined in as the audience. So now the floor is open for the members of the audience to ask their questions to the panelists. You can either unmute yourself or you could type out your question in the chat box. The questions can be addressed to any one of the panelists or all four in general also.
Also, can the panelists also ask the other panelists questions?
Yes, Herman, that can also be done. So if any of the panelists would want
Once
to have interaction,
once the students are done, once the students are done, I have a question for each of the panelists.
Okay, sure. I think till the students come up with the questions, we can have the questions by the panelists.
Can I ask a question to Herman? Herman,
Yes,
there goes a question. In fact, what is the difference between covering pandemic in Goa and covering pandemic in Mumbai? Because you are the only person, I think, on this panel who has covered both the sides, both the states. Why I'm asking you is that when you cover pandemic in Goa, you see someone whom you know, very close person dying, and in Mumbai, I presume you must not have made so many friends as you have us here back in Goa and families. So, what's the difference between covering pandemic in both these states?
In the thing is, when I started covering for the first wave in Mumbai, Rupesh, tu janas talo teto mere kita tale ISU PP kits. That because no one knew what was happening, and at that point, Mumbai is a very populous place, something like a Dharavi, which is taken as the barometer. It was just getting out of hand, and I had friends of mine, colleagues who were calling up and saying, "Are you fine? Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay," because no one talks about the mental health of a journalist ever. Everyone thinks journalists are super human beings. It took a toll here when I started seeing the beds, when there was this particular, I think it was a doctor, a dean of a hospital where I interviewed him. And he said everything was fine. But the next day in the same hospital, there were 2 dead bodies kept beneath the bed. And there was someone who was being given treatment on the bed. So it shook me. It shook me so much so that while covering in Mumbai, I resigned from Times Now because I needed a mental break. That was that 1 month when I'd come. You remember, Regina, that whole bus that had come, the first bus. And that is it. Now in the second wave, now that oxygen crisis could have been avoided, there were certain sort of probably drawbacks. Some people were scared, and obviously there is a sense of security always. Huh? That's I forgot to mention that the security of a journalist is always compromised. We don't have zero security, and even if tomorrow anything happens to a journalist, only those who can speak properly to someone might get some sort of support. Otherwise, those lobbies will demolish you altogether. Now in Goa, what happened is, in Goa, when you're sort of covering it, people here obviously have lost their lives. Similarly, they've lost. But there, when you see people who you've roamed with, who you've been in choir with, you've sat for probably a coffee or a beer with, who have spoken to you over the phone just 2 3 days before, and then you realize 3 days later they are no longer there. That sort of thing is, it changes you as a person, because then it hits you professionally, it hits you personally also. That is, I think, the biggest challenge. Secondly, also, in Goa, what has happened is, excess. Like in Bombay, it's difficult to get into a hospital and to shoot inside. Now in GMC, if you have your contacts, which is where your local contacts are helpful, you can wear a PPE kit. I'm not saying I did this. I'm putting this on record. May have happened. I'm not saying I did it. You can wear a PPE kit. There are a lot of volunteer groups there from either political parties who you also pretend to be a volunteer and may have gone inside and shot some lovely shots, and you've come out and you've done your journalism. So I think that has been the thing is, see, at the end of the day, for me, exactly as much as Bombay might be, because the thing is, my parents were born and brought up in Bombay, but for me, I identify myself as Goa and son of the soil. You get that extra activism. That is what I was trying to say. As a journalist, we are a little bit social activists also. When you see your own people die, a little bit somewhere, it's not shaking you in Bombay. In Bombay, it shakes you and it makes you angry. It makes you sympathetic. In Goa, it makes you empathetic. Those sort of people, and it changes it. And sorry, they are not for public discussions. You know what has gone wrong where. Kenzil also knows. He's smiling. I know that. We all know how and why it has gone wrong. Could it have been avoided? Yes, it could. And now what has added to it is the whole panga that in 8 months from now, Goa goes to elections.
Elections, correct.
Goa goes to elections. Can you hear me? Sorry. That was Bharan Prabhu calling up. So the problem is, in Goa, I think the difference is you're more empathetic because you've known the people who've died. And it's sad, no? I mean, if I look at the list of people who I have known who have passed away and by the way, this is the first wave we were prepared. No, sorry, we were not prepared. That was, God's calling, and we were learning. The second wave is what I call, and I would love to say that on record, was a man-made wave. We could have avoided that at all costs.
Correct.
Second one was totally man-made, totally bad decision, administrative level, whatever. First wave, I understand, we didn't have the infrastructure. But when the cases started going down, everyone sort of relaxed. Everyone started going out. We as reporters also should have done stories, probably how the second wave is preparing, which we did not. I did not do it. So I can speak only for myself. So I think the second wave was totally man-made. And now if we still think that, now with vaccination, things are going to, a lot of people don't realize is when you take the polio vaccine, it had 100% efficacy, which meant that if you take it, and that obviously over trials and whatever. Now we are still taking vaccine, but that is why the government is time and again asking people to still wear a mask. I still know of a lot of people who don't wear a mask and despite being vaccinated. Now the fact is, we've got to start doing stories on how do we prepare for third wave, because God forbid, I hope it doesn't come, but what if, right? We shouldn't be caught on the wrong foot. So as far as Goa and Mumbai is concerned, and also the good part about I think covering in Goa the pandemic is that you get to eat home cooked food.
Thank you, Aman. Any of the other panelists would want to ask questions? Then
I want to ask.
Kenzil. Yes, Aman.
Kenzil, my question to you is, as far as mobile journalism is concerned, now you do a lot of it. I know, like how Rupesh does. What is the biggest challenge in Goa as far as mobile journalism is concerned? Is it the network, or is it reaching on time? At a particular place, or how you interview? How do you go by? How you get up in the morning? How do you decide that this needs to be covered or that using your phone?
It's all context. It's all contact, and the other thing is that how fast sooner you get, the before Rupesh files it or before anybody files it. So it's like COVID pandemic has taught us a lot. I hope Rupesh will surely agree with me because I've been following Rupesh also for a long time, since the time he has been working with PTI and all. That journalism has been totally changed. Those print media days are gone now. It is like you get it now, you do it live, you show it live, everybody will follow you, and the same story will come on papers. So it is like today, nobody wants to wait for you for that 8 o'clock news on any of the cable TV news or something. It is now, you get it now, you break it now. You are a hero of the day. It's like that. So you have to slog it, you have to run it. Even I can see Rupesh clicking stories 8 9 days. I don't know what time he sleeps and all.
He
But
doesn't sleep.
sometimes I'm happy that at least there's a challenging one who can give a challenge to him. Though we are very smaller than him, but hats off to him, the way he works and way he runs that, and it's a good learning experience from him. But
Yeah.
mobile journalism surely has gone a big way.
Yeah. One more thing I want to ask you, Kenzel. I don't want to get into the numbers of it, but in terms of the monetary side of it, how much of an impact has it been in terms of percentage levels? I don't want to get into the money part.
Percentage level, it is like everything depends on the story. Only the thing is that how more I have seen on it, may be YouTube or Facebook. If you do a straight story, nobody likes it. You have to mix it up with masala or something. You have to show it something. Then everybody follows it. Because I can give you a simple example. If you put up a Konkani song, you will get lakhs of viewers. But if you really put a real story, hard-hitting story, why somebody will view it, like it. There's a lot of difference, and that is social media. So you have to think how the way you have to collaborate it, and
Yeah.
what will be a byline for it.
Yeah.
If I am permitted, I would
Before,
like to ask
the
us
analysts are also asking for questions. We'll take those questions, but last question to both of you.
I would like to ask a question to Rupesh, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
sure.
Yes, Kenzel, go
Okay.
ahead.
Rupesh, you have been in both in print as well as in social media. Tell us, in this last 2 years, how it has changed, basically the print media, the cables, especially when we have worked with this mobile journalism. You must be knowing it, and you are a better person to tell us. Even Herman can talk on this, add on it, because I would love to learn and know from you.
Rupesh is good.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah.
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 Okay. We were talking about the response to certain news. Two women fighting for one husband in Goa becomes, it gets more
Correct.
than 1 lakh views. While Kenzie doing some interesting, it doesn't cross 20,000. Or
Exclusive story.
I doing some nice interview doesn't cross 5,000.
Correct.
But those people fighting for one husband becomes, I don't know. So I really don't know what interests people really, and in this pandemic time, what exactly is making people glued to internet or to this space. That is one interesting thing. I know Herman knows about the entire story. So another thing is that about in last 2 years we have seen a new breed of journalists who have come to Goa. So in Goa, uh, especially whom we were always considering as people who were just holding cameras, like no one were giving them a chance to ask a question. They were just holding cameras, and some senior guys were asking questions. So now what has happened due to pandemic, many of the senior guys were not moved out of their cabins, offices, and those people on field are the junior journalists and who are actually handling press conferences covering the thing. So I also Kenzil is senior though. Kenzil, a person like Kenzil who has been there on that from the day first. So for all the journalism students, you have to understand one thing, that if you join now, you will be able to get all the prominence in the field, because all the seniors are afraid. All are taking, some have taken vaccination, and also still they are not moving out. So this is one thing. And print, as far as print is concerned, there was a fear that print will die out, but doesn't look like. But importance of print has gone down
Correct.
tremendously. That's why even some papers have gone to digital, and they are also doing what I and Kenzil do. So that is
They
one
follow
good
that.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. I think there's some questions have come in from the panelists. I think.
Yes. There are a few questions in the chat box. Firstly, we have someone who says that I have always had this question: are most of the media agencies here in Goa and in India funded by political parties, or they are or they are independent of biases? If they are not independent of biases, how do we obtain the true facts of what we see on the channels? What are the best ways to verify, and what are the best ways to verify what we see on the news? I think Haman, you can answer this question.
If he's into verification of news, I can't speak for it. If he's interested into giving out news, I can guide him. There's a difference there. Now, if he wants to verify and sound like, like these former sort of journalists who sit at home and decide what everyone else is doing on field or how it's supposed to be done, I have no answers honestly for that. How do you verify? You always go by the official guy that you speak to. There's a crime that has happened, you call up the local police station. There's a building that has collapsed, you call up the collector, who's the head of the district, always in India. And whatever he says is the gospel truth, whether one wants it or not. You want bias, then you might be invited by a politician, say in Goa, in South Goa or North Goa, for a lovely drink. He'll tell you, do this, I will do this, and then you go ahead and you do it. That is how it works. That is how it's your natural call. If you have a conscience, as I'm saying, that when I do something, I will not get scared and I will still report it, that is up to you. How do you cross verify? You always go by your days. You can't always to the police station. So every police station in Mumbai that I'm talking about has its own website where the senior PI name is there. You call that senior PI and you ask, what is the actual fact, and whatever he tells you. Secondly, go by the press release. When an official release comes, that is how you're supposed to follow. That is you want to add some sort of tadka and sort of this, then I don't. Who was this question from?
This question is from a student.
Okay, yeah. So that is what. So when you enter journalism, that will be too late. So as of now, start interning, move around with journalists. You'll try and understand from where the facts come. If it's a crime, it comes from the police station, or at a higher level, it comes from the headquarters, which is at the district level, your SP, North Goa, South Goa. If it is, a certain sort of civic or a social issue, you call up the district collector and you get your facts from there. What you see on the news, is it believable? Like someone said, I think it was Kenzil who said when he puts up a song, he gets 1 lakh views. If he puts up a small story, he gets 20,000 views. The fact is, as I'm saying, there is a new term called as infotainment. You get information, but there is a slice of entertainment related to it. And today people are enjoying that. The fact is no one can get out of their house. So everyone is sitting at home and enjoying themselves. And people love to see a personal fight coming on Facebook. They might not even be known to that person, but they don't care whether the gutter or the nalla has been cleaned in their around the area or not by the government. They're only interested in XYZ man or woman fighting for their spouse, probably and nowadays on Facebook. The problem is, this is the thing. Instead of literacy and education reaching out people first, mobile technology has reached out to people first. Cheaper smartphones, everyone has become a journalist today. Each one says they go live. And it's a mess. Can we course correct? It is going to take some time. You want to check facts. There are alt news. There's news laundry, at a national level that sort of cross verify fake claims. So you can always follow them. There's news laundry, alt news, as far as I remember, that do a brilliant job in terms of, in case of cross-verifying news. But at a local level, if you talk about in Goa, you've always got to go by. We don't have a news laundry sort of, thing in Goa. So probably students, along with their teachers, can come together and start something, a website of that sort, where probably they can collate and they say that we spoke to the police station, but they said XYZ, while this so-and-so report, along with the link of it, said this. I think that is the sort of what you can't. It's a lot of messy here. I mean, but who do you go? You always go by your official. This source, I want to tell this journalism student, everyone thinks it's a very big word. A source is as simple as the person. Now, as I spoke, if I keep on talking on an everyday basis to the South Goa SP for certain sort of information over a period of time, he becomes friendly with me, invites me for a lunch where I pay the lunch for it. Always pay for your own bills, and because then you don't want to be called as Godi media or any of that sort of term. So you always pay for your bills, no matter what. So So over a period of time, he calls you for lunch, he becomes your source. When an official person who gives you official information over a period of time becomes friendly with you, starts talking to you, in a personal sort of manner, then he becomes your source. So this source is not some secretive sort of word, where it's not like the Freemasons as such. That is what your source is. And be in touch with them regularly, not always to ask them about news. Also call them up once a while to ask them, wish them for their birthdays and all. It helps a lot.
Thank you, Roman. I think the next question could be answered by Rupesh. And this question is by Aniket. He says, what impact photojournalism has had during the pandemic?
In fact, though the virus was invisible, its impact was visible everywhere. And if you have seen nationally, we have actually lost a lot of opportunities in Goa to click pictures as far as this pandemic is concerned. If you see nationally, there are so many pictures actually that moved people in power. But in Goa, we have not seen one good picture which actually could be identified as far as pandemic in Goa is concerned, because photojournalism is slowly dying down, as Herman said earlier. Like in their news channel, cameramen are not there, video cameramen. Here also, photographers have been replaced by someone who's actually holding a mobile. So though you might replace a photojournalist, but that talent is not there. So as far as Goa is concerned, during this pandemic, we have seen not a single good photograph that speaks about pandemic. I hope Kenzil also will agree with me that show me one single photograph which will represent Goa's pandemic situation. All the time we see only CM walking out of meetings, HM walking out of meetings. Okay, Herman want to say something.
Can I also pitch in?
That is that no, I'll just add one line and I'll keep my mouth shut. I think the reason why we didn't see a single photograph in Goa that has moved anyone is because at the ESI hospital, the South Goa District Hospital, and the North Goa, which is your GMC, photography and videography has been banned.
That is
And
at
we
a
know
later
why
part.
the reason is. But we already know who was kept there before, no? Sometimes when journalists go there, those khabris are kept. There are a lot of khabris kept by the minister saying that so and so journalist has come, what is to be done. So everyone knows how that media management is also another. I think Mrs. Vella Rose wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the question which was around are most of the media agencies here in Goa and India funded by political parties? Which Bryce has asked, or are they independent biases? I think funding, of course, is always from a source like someone who's in power or someone who is definitely having a lot of capital to invest in. So it can be political, it can be industry driven. We're talking of specifically Goa, I think both exist in different forms. We can't rightly point out they are totally political. They do have a lot of industrial leaning, however. Now, I think what you were trying to ask also is if they are not independent of biases, how do we obtain true facts? Now, interestingly, there are workshops which Google News Initiative has had over from 2018 till date, and they're still having these workshops which are open for both students, journalists, media educators. Now, if you want to learn on your own, even as a student, how to fact check, there are lots of these workshops which have also happened in Goa on a virtual medium now, where you can actually learn these basic things of how do you actually verify a video. Is it true? Is it factual? Has it been an old video which has been spread as a viral? I think sometime back there was this video which was being shared on WhatsApp that an entire hill has slid in Ponda. It just came in I think last year during the rains, when the rains were happening, and everyone thought there is a traffic jam and everything. And when you go to verify the video, it actually showed it is from somewhere in Philippines. It's not even a Goan video. So when you are going only by, or rather, most of us go by what we watch on WhatsApp and social media platforms. It's a little important for us to cross-check these facts by using certain simple techniques like reverse camera. These are very basic things you can do. You can also check a story which is being shared on Twitter or on Facebook. So if you're really interested, check for Google News Initiatives. They are having workshops where they're also now having a lot of information about the vaccination drive and how you have to decode what the vaccine drive is for the publics so that they understand it better. I mean, for journalists and as well as for students who are interested in this. So I think you should have a look at that platform because it's free. These workshops which are being conducted, you can enroll yourself and definitely learn a couple of skills so that you don't feel you're taken for a ride. Because otherwise, we're losing the trust in in the kind of news we are sharing and watching online or even through different and we know mainstream media also sometimes shows you fake news totally without verifying. So you can do that as a small initiative. In the long run, it is definitely a skill set which all journalists have to learn. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am Velaros, for presenting your views. We'll take one last question and then we'll wind up. We have Arya who's asking, more than the newspapers and news channels, people are relying more on social media, where sometimes a lot of fake news is circulated. Can any of the panelists like to advise us youngsters how can we stop them? How becoming a victim of fake news? Want to answer this?
Who's the question for?
Kendall, would you want to answer the question?
Can you repeat the question first?
Sure. So we have Arya who is saying, so in general, the question is how can we youngsters uh, get to know how we can not become a victim of fake news?
Can I answer that? Because this is something which has been troubling me often. That
I think
when we say, when we talk about fake news and fake things, we are the people who actually peddle it day in and day out. When something comes, we blindly follow it, forward it on WhatsApp groups. First, we should stop doing that. We should be very responsible. Until and unless we know that it is true, you should not. And please don't forward something and ask person, ki, is it true? So that person forwards to 10 other people and asks, is it true? So that becomes true. And then the day before yesterday, there was one screenshot which said that one Congress guy is joining BJP. At least 50 people forwarded, is it true? I just said, it looks fake. Everyone knows it is fake, and then people try to create stories around. So I don't think that any of the journalists of any of the media is responsible for fake news. It is general over enthusiastic public who are having access to internet and unlimited internet and to phones are those people who keep on forwarding it. So next time when anyone gets such kind of forward, please make sure that don't ask anyone whether it is true. You please Google that term and see, because if there is any news there were students from HSSC who were often calling me and asking, "आमची exam cancel रे." So I told him, माझ्या कानान येऊन सीएम सांगतो ना, सीएम बोवाळ घालून सांगतो आणि सगळ्यांक कळटले, म्हाका कळटले तेन्ना तू काय कळटले बाबा. मग सुशेगात तू मातसो ट्वीट ऑन करून दवर, फेसबुक ऑन करून दवर, सीएमाक फॉलो कर. Okay, so my thing is that please, if someone people actually go on field and do all these lives like a reporter, they also should act and behave responsibly like a reporter when it comes to forwarding something which has come to them. And if someone forwards you fake news, please call him up and tell, stop it, don't do this. Just tell him that you are looking like a fool and you are also making me look like a fool. Yeah, this is my journey.
Someone you want to say something?
No. I just have a last question, and then probably you all can take it. That's the only question I want to ask. I want to ask Rupesh and Kenzil both. I want to play sort of devil's advocate here, and I want to ask from them, who has been the most difficult politician to be interviewed during the pandemic? Not the reason for it.
I can say obviously the health minister.
I can say Luizin Falero, because he speaks so much that by the time we think that pandemic will get over, by the time his bite gets over.
No, I could say the health minister. Why? Because to get the certain facts verified, because there was a differentiation at one point of time where The chief minister used to say something and the health minister. There was a contradictory on that. Even I hope Rupesh will agree with that 200 and 300 number. Where did it come? I did not say. Who reported it? I don't know. All these things were there. And then suddenly after a few days' time, it was a reality.
Yeah, Herman, you must be knowing the most difficult thing right now is to keep your mental balance for journalists, because health minister or someone tweets something and you file a report and then he deletes the tweet and then the
Delete
office
the
says, "अरे कौन एक tweet केले दाखय?" So you cannot even say,
Dakhoy.
and to screenshot डाकेला they say, "अरे उसके handler पे तो है ही
Yeah.
नहीं, उसने tweet ही नहीं किया." So the most important and difficult task right now for
And I
us
think
to
there's
keep
another
our
problem that in Goa, what we've seen is that a particular politician in the ruling takes a press conference in Altino and everyone flashes it. And then in the evening, there's another press conference at one of the popular five-star hotels in Panjim where he says completely contradictory parts, which is why I
Especially,
think,
especially I remember the COVID negative certificates for those who would like to enter. In fact, he said there was no need in the another few in my days' time. Chief Minister said we would, and you know who had said it first and all.
So
I
anyway,
got
it's
my
very difficult times for even for journalists and those. If we think, if some people think that we peddle fake news, it's not fake. It was true at that particular time before he deleted that tweet.
because we went by the official version that was
Yeah.
given.
And you alerted them.
Can I just add? I think it's fine if you're saying that journalists don't peddle fake news. I'm not saying that they do, but the onus of responsibility, especially when you're gathering information from so many different sources, and sometimes we've had big news companies breaking news which is totally invalid, and even during Corona. I mean, I'm not talking of Goa specific, but we do have news channels which have uh, who have not given the right news about medicines during coronavirus, who have not given the right perspective on what can be done and not done. And so a lot of television channels, okay, let me be specific, because there was so much time for people to watch television at home, started these talk shows which were totally not based on any scientific evidence of what was being discussed during the talk shows. Uh, there again, I think because you were getting the TRPs, which we do understand again is all to do with how we get the money in. Uh, there were newsrooms which also played Antakshari at one point of time. So it was going berserk because you didn't know what to show your Indian audiences. I mean, that's where perhaps it becomes a little troublesome. You can't put the entire onus on the public because sometimes you are feeding, as a journalist, also we are feeding them with things which are not appropriate at that point of time. Sushant Singh
Yeah.
Rajput was classic. You had the farmers' agitation starting. We don't have any coverage on mainstream news that time, but we have Sushant Singh on all, and where did the drugs come from? Who's involved? Who's been the murderer? Psychic speaking.
Monday is the anniversary.
Yes, exactly, and that's sad because somewhere journalists need to take some kind of responsibility of what goes on prime time television at least, because that's also one of the reasons why a lot of the public now feel we'll just watch what comes on WhatsApp, because anyways
In,
what's
Go-
coming on
in
television
Goa,
may
you
not
don't
be
get
true.
such stories.
But with your contrast that you've drawn between Piat songs and the news and the
But
viewership,
I'm sorry if I keep quiet at this point, and therefore I'll have to interrupt. Last minute, my camera person is waiting down, and I need to go and file a story on the first death anniversary of Sushant Singh Rajput. And there's something I want to say here. The reason is what is shown and what is consumed. I think some things probably might be unfair, but if you look at the TRP charts, that is what the audience watches. There have been lovely stories, where scientists have spoken, doctors have spoken, no one watches. You see the same TRP that has coming in from, the sort of, say, Sushant Singh Rajput, death coverage or the NCP part of it. You will see how it has tripled. So audience is being given both. The farmers' agitation was also being covered very well. But when the Sushant Singh Rajput came, when you look at the TRPs, they've been given both. The audience has been given both. And in a TV industry, you have 60 minutes of your bulletin. Out of that, you have only 40 plus. In 40 minutes, how do you consume that much of news? Goa has always never seen, because let's just face it, Goa has only 2 MPs, and from a political point of view, it really doesn't matter to them at the national level.
Correct.
When Mr. Parikar was there, it was a different ball game altogether, and that I think many people will agree. Now, when both are being served to the audiences, you give a Sushant Singh Rajput story and what is the audience consuming? At the end of the day, my editor, I am not coming and saying, watch this story or watch this story. I'm giving you both. But which of that do you decide to prefer? It might sound wrong, but at the end of the day, to blame the media for what it is entirely putting out is wrong because the audience is consuming. Everyone loves junk food. And one more thing that I want to end my note on, and that's my last sentence. I need to really now get out. The thing is, it's been 7 years. I don't have a TV set at my home, both in Bombay and in Goa. So I don't watch the TV at all. 7 years, whatever it is, totally on phone. A lot of people don't know about this, but we don't have it not because we can't afford it, but because we just choose not to watch it. The reasons for that are something different.
Breaking the lyric, Kenzil.
7 years. 7 years you don't have a TV set, and that's a conscious decision taken by my parents, not by me. Which I
When you have a mobile, you don't need TV.
No, I watch Kenzil and Rupesh. That's more than enough for me. Okay, I'll take your leave because I really need to go. My camera person is waiting. Amol, thank you very much, and to team.
Thank you, Aman.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for everything, and see you all in probably happy.
Amal, perhaps we can take a last question from Yugang sir in the chat box.
Yes, we'll take the last question from Yugang Naik. This question is addressed to Mr. Rupesh Samant. Yugang says, most of Goa's print media was supported by mining corporations. It always undermines stories of labor and environment. Do you see change in reportage in news media in Goa?
In fact, it started changing right from the day MB Shah Commission came out with the report. Yugang, I know what Yugang wants to say. When we started journalism way back in 96-97, writing an anti-mining story was like a crime. But later on, it continued to be a crime till 2005 and till 2012 when MB Shah Commission came in. And after that, I remember everyone was pouncing on MB Shah Commission report, and everyone had carried even detailed graphic details of what has been mentioned in the report. So even those newspapers which are owned by mine owners had no other option than to carry it. So what was happening earlier? It was our opinion or our investigation. Earlier it was our opinion or earlier it was our investigation. But when the entire investigation has been vetted or recognized by a Supreme Court, naturally every journalist would pick it up and cover it. So it has already changed right from 2012. So now there's nothing to change. Now we are just hoping that we change our mindset and become a more positive. In fact, to end this discussion, we should look at more positive news coming in right now, because there is a lot of negativity. So if anyone can go in the village, can file something about villagers, someone has really done good, please contact us. We will carry those stories with the picture, because right now the need is to give us something which is very positive, and I should feel the world is good.
Thank you, Rupesh, for answering that question. Well, we come towards the end of this panel discussion, which is organized by the Pinnacle Club. I would want to thank all four of our panelists who joined us today. Mr. Rupesh Samant, Mr. Kenzil, Ma'am Melrose, and Mr. Herman. Thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us here. We surely hope that in the future, for any other panel discussion, we'd want to have you once again with us. So thank you once again for joining us. And with this, we conclude to this panel discussion. Thank you.
I think I would also like to thank all the panelists. Kenzil, I hope we meet sometime. Rupesh, I have already met with you. It's nice to hear you. And Herman, who's not here. It was very nice to hear the insights from the ground zero, as I would call it, because you are the guys who are really fighting the COVID war, the frontline warriors as such. And also like to thank Father Walter, who was here, I think, as part of the college. I think he attended this. This is a very good initiative. I should congratulate Ram Rai and Amol, both of them, for taking on these kind of discussions. I've been here before on Pinnacle as as a member. It's interesting that you take up very important issues and highlight them. So thank you so much.
Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Kenzil. Thank you, Rupesh.